KREM 2 News begins now.
Thank you for joining us on KREM 2 Plus. I'm Tim Pham. This is your KREM 2 News Week in Review. Join us as we take a closer look at some of the biggest stories in the Inland Northwest this past week.
Well, the defense team has been collecting and analyzing data and news coverage since early 2023 and says it proves a fair and impartial jury cannot be found in Latah County. Brian Koberger's defense team first asked for a change of venue in January, but has been compiling data to back up that ask since early 2023. One of the major pieces of evidence they're using, a Latah County community survey.
100 jurors walked into this room during voir dire. 66% of them already think he's guilty before they've heard any evidence.
Dr. Brian Edelman was hired by Ann Taylor and her team to analyze whether a fair trial could be held in Latah County. The defense has claimed bias and strong emotion in the Moscow area have reached mob mentality, pointing to responses in the survey.
And a range of themes from people would basically kill him to they burn the courthouse down or assume that the jury failed.
The prosecution has argued the survey wasn't adequate or comprehensive enough, as it hasn't been reported how many people declined to take it. The defense pointed to strong media saturation in Latah County, which makes up less than 3% of the state's population. They're looking to move to Ada County, where about a quarter of Idaho's residents live.
If you have a certain number of stories divided by the population, the number of stories a person can see is fewer if the population is larger.
Social psychology expert Amani El Alaili says people may have made strong prejudgments based on hearing snippets of stories.
From the media, people may take bits and pieces, and that starts to create a level of knowledge or human bias.
We might feel like we know about something more than we do, yeah.
She says research shows people will tend to double down on their beliefs even when confronted with contradictory evidence. She testified there's no way to undo this, except finding a new jury pool. Judge John Judge said he's got some work to do in making what he called the most difficult decision of his career, and he gave no estimate on when he'll issue a ruling on moving the trial. Shannon Mowdy, KREM 2 News. Well, the Spokane County prosecutor confirmed this afternoon this marks the first time a Spokane County Sheriff's deputy has ever been charged with a crime committed while on duty. Sergeant Clay Hilton is not only accused of assaulting the man in the video, he is charged with falsifying the official record. We do want to warn you, this story contains graphic images.
There is nothing that our client could have done to precipitate the beating that he received.
That's an attorney for Kevin Hinton, who says he was beaten so severely by Spokane County Sheriff Sergeant Clay Hilton, he was in the hospital for days. Now, new court documents show why Hilton is facing assault and false swearing charges. The Yakima County prosecutor independently reviewed the case and recommended charges after Spokane police and a use of force expert also investigated. Those investigators found the beating Hilton is accused of was excessive and unnecessary. Hinton was parked outside a Spokane Valley park after hours last August. According to Spokane Valley City Code, that's just an infraction, not warranting an arrest, according to the expert investigator. The expert found the violation was minor, did not involve weapons or violence, and there was no need for haste. Still, he wrote, Hilton made the situation worse instead of de-escalating under Sheriff's Office policy.
Don't put your hands on me, pal. Listen.
You are going to get hurt.
Court documents show Hilton continued to try to use Spokane City and county laws to charge Hinton with a misdemeanor. An SPD sergeant tasked with looking into the case said Hilton recognized he couldn't cite Hinton with a misdemeanor sometime after the arrest, but, quote, completed a sworn charging document and sworn police report, and even intentionally disregarded Spokane Valley Code in trying to charge Hinton. This is Hilton from a 2017 interview with KREM 2 News. Hilton's second-degree assault charge comes with an aggravating circumstance of egregious lack of remorse. which under Washington law means he showed extreme indifference to the harm resulting from the accused crime. We did reach out to attorneys on both sides of the case, but did not hear back. Court records show Hilton will be issued a summons to show up to court. His arraignment is set for September 25th. Shannon Mowdy, KREM 2 News.
Robert Abbott was reported missing last April by his wife, Star Abbott. After investigating, the Spokane County Sheriff's Office reports they consider Abbott to be dead, with 3 people charged in the case.
I'm sad that he's gone. It's heartbreaking. He was a good person, and I'm glad they made an arrest.
Deanna Ladding says she knew Robert Abbott for nearly 20 years and is still processing the news of 3 people being charged in what the Spokane County Sheriff's Office believes to be his murder. And one of the 3 being charged, Richard L. Trower, Ladding is familiar with, saying Abbott and Trower had a falling out in their relationship after Abbott invited Trower to stay on his property.
Robert and Richard had a falling out over Richard stole Robert's wife's sandblaster for her business. And so Rob kicked him off the property and told him he needed to leave, that he wasn't allowed there anymore. He was stealing from him.
Trower is charged with second-degree murder as well as residential burglary, taking a motor vehicle without permission in the second degree, theft in the second degree, and trafficking in stolen property. Terry L. Trower, Richard's wife, is also charged with rendering criminal assistance in the first degree and trafficking stolen property. A third person, Heather L. Lewis, is being charged with second-degree murder, residential burglary, taking a motor vehicle without permission in the second degree, and theft in the second degree.
It's saddening. It's really saddening.
Ladding was with Star Abbott when she initially reported her husband missing and says she's since left the state, trying to avoid memories of the situation.
She married her best friend, and all of a sudden now she doesn't have him. And it was too hard to be in Spokane anymore for her.
As she looks ahead, she says whatever happened, she wants justice for a person she's proud to call her friend.
He was a great man, had the biggest heart of gold, would help you out in a heartbeat if you needed it. And sadly, we don't have him to this day anymore. He will be missed very much.
I have reached out to Star Abbott for comment since the news of these charges, but have not heard back. We'll continue following this story as it develops. In studio, Connor McAvoy, KREM 2 News.
I need answers. I need my husband. I need my friend.
What started as a welfare check has now turned into a homicide investigation. The investigation into what happened to Robert Abbott started after his wife, Star Abbott, reported him missing in April. According to court documents, officials determined that Abbott's car, a BMW, and tools from his workshop, including chainsaws, were stolen from the property on April 1st. While investigating, detectives found blood in Abbott's shop as well as 2 spent cartridges, one in and one out of the shop. Spokane County Sheriff's Office says detectives developed probable cause to arrest 3 people in connection to this case: Richard Trower, his wife Terry Trower, and Heather Lewis. A family friend of Robert Abbott says that Richard and Robert were living together, but had a falling out. Court docs detail that in the next several days, Richard Trower was selling different items like a chainsaw and a stereo across the county. Court documents say that on April 5th, Abbott's stolen BMW was found in a mobile home park in Meade, and that Richard Trower had been seen driving it by witnesses. However, no one was inside of it at that time. On April 6th, Richard Trower, his wife Terry, and another man were pulled over in an unlicensed gray Suburban. Documents say officials took the car as evidence after finding blood, but they weren't able to connect the blood to Abbott at that time. On April 9th, officials were able to get a search warrant for the BMW. That's when investigators found several blood stains in the car and in the trunk. According to court docs, the amount of blood inside of the trunk suggested a large object consistent with the size of a human body has been stored there. According to court documents, Richard Trower and Lewis had several phone conversations between April 2nd and April 4th about what to do with these certain items. Richard Trower then told Lewis to delete the messages off of her phone. The Trowers have been under investigation since they were pulled over back on April 6th. According to court documents, on August 28th, Terry and Richard were arrested at Northern Quest Casino, and the third suspect, Heather Lewis, was also arrested in Cheney. All 3 have been booked into the Spokane County Jail. At this point in the investigation, Abbott's body has not been found. Now, these 67 units are either going to be built, bought, or renovated by the city to help low-income people or families throughout the county. Prepare to vote. That vote was to approve funding for 9 different projects to bring more affordable housing to the area. In total, these 9 different projects are collectively making close to 149 units available for different groups of people with low income. This includes those with chronic mental illness as well as senior citizens. However, the city is only helping fund 67 of them. To break it down even further, of the 67 units, only 26 will be newly constructed. The other 41 will either be bought as is or renovated. The city isn't paying for these projects in full, but rather providing anywhere from 9 to close to 80% of each project's cost. They are using funds which come from House Bill 1590, which was signed into law back in 2020. 1590 funds are generated by a 0.1% sales tax throughout the city. Councilman Michael Cathcart says that since the fund was established back in November of 2020, there was close to $17 million raised. This decision for the funding was approved by a 5-1 vote. Councilman Cathcart was the only one on the city council to vote against this decision, saying that he has actually been against this resolution for months.
I was very clear back in May when this RFP went out that I would not support the outcome if it was based on this RFP that did not follow code.
He says the city codes that he's referring to talk about using these funded projects as mixed-use projects, which means that there is a space for businesses potentially as well as housing. The other code talks about prioritizing projects that would result in home ownership.
We have a housing crisis, and so we need to be focused on how do we expand the number, grow the number of units available, and doing it at the most effective price. And so, to me, I don't think this current process achieves that.
Christian Garza, KREM 2 News.
Well, yeah, it was about a 5-month search and more than a month of waiting for his official start date, but Kevin Hall takes over as Chief of Police starting today. A day of hope in Spokane.
Today is an opportunity to look forward, and as we do so, I am filled with optimism and excitement.
With optimism, the leading emotion among the crowd gathered for the swearing in of a new leader.
To the people of Spokane, I assure you that your voices matter. All of your voices and your partnership is vital to the success of Spokane.
Kevin Hall, formerly Assistant Chief of Tucson's police force, is now Chief in Spokane. Selected from 4 finalists in July, city leaders like Betsy Wilkerson say he'll bring change and transparency.
He's willing to listen not just to one group, but all the groups, because these are systems that have to really work together to get the kind of change that Spokane wants to see.
Working together is what Debbie Novak hopes to see, too.
This one's for my son, David Novak, Justice for David Novak, and this one is for Robert Bradley.
Her son was shot and killed by Spokane police in 2019. She's since been an advocate at the state and local level, pushing for police accountability. She wants Hall to hear the voices of families impacted by police shootings.
And I'm hoping that Chief Hall will let us help him to help us.
And Hall said he is willing to listen to the entire community, from business and government leaders to service providers. One initiative he'd like to bring from his 30 years in Tucson is a behavioral crisis response center.
It is probably the cornerstone of a good crisis continuum of care.
Hall says Spokane is not unique in its challenges: the fentanyl epidemic, the unsheltered and homelessness, and crime. He says he wants to address those immediately, but he's not looking to make sweeping change just yet.
Let's be fair, nobody has cracked this nut yet when it comes to unsheltered and the fentanyl epidemic. So we're going to need a little bit of latitude and time to figure this out.
Chief Hall says he will spend the next week settling in and working on his Washington police accreditations. Shannon Mowdy, KREM 2 News.
These Spokane County patrol cars are starting to catch people's attention, mostly because of the cameras mounted on top. They're not Google Earth cars, so what do? Well, they're mobile camera systems that help deter crime across the county and save taxpayer dollars.
The Spokane County Sheriff's Office has found a way to get more eyes on the streets, but they're not uniformed eyes.
It's a retired vehicle that isn't being used in patrol anymore.
And they're watching 24 hours a day. A mobile camera system mounted on top uses multiple eyes to keep watch of the neighborhood they're stationed in. The solar technology allows them to remain in the field for about 40 days, while the camera feeds are monitored here when needed at the county's real-time crime center.
It allows us to, potentially collect evidence in high crime areas. It allows us to use ALPR technology to help us solve crimes.
Sheriff John Knowles is talking about automated license plate readers. It's a system that alerts law enforcement of vehicles of interest.
It's like having a cop sitting on the street corner that recognizes every car that goes by, but has a perfect memory of every stolen vehicle or every vehicle of interest in their brain and can automatically pick it out and identify it.
In May, the ALPR system helped deputies track down a burglary suspect. Investigators identified the suspect car as a gray Porsche, and the owner was a 15-time convicted felon. The system spotted the Porsche in Liberty Lake and alerted deputies. Then they searched the area and arrested the suspect during a traffic stop. The same system helped Spokane police locate a suspect in a June drive-by shooting.
It is really helping us have a significant impact on not only violent crime cases, but also in vehicle theft cases.
This parking lot is being recorded.
The mobile camera system is similar to these trailers, which run about $80,000 apiece. But some resourceful staff in the sheriff's office found a way to build the same setup for only $15,000.
That's got to make some taxpayer ears perk up.
It does, and I'm so proud of the employees who put that together, who took the initiative and said, we think we can do this.
The sheriff says it all adds up to more eyes on the street to help prevent crime.
The sheriff's office currently has 2 of these mobile camera systems deployed across the county. They expect to have 2 more in the near future. Amanda Rowley, KREM 2 News.
A recall petition filed Tuesday accuses Commissioner French of violating his oath of office and misconduct, claiming he covered up PFAS contamination near the airport for the better part of a decade. Back in 2017, PFAS contamination was detected near Fairchild Air Force Base.
Airway Heights announced their water could be unsafe to drink.
But a newly filed recall petition says Spokane County Commissioner and then Airport Board member Al French also knew and covered up. The so-called forever chemicals had spread to neighborhoods near the Spokane Airport. Neighborhoods like the West Plains, where Robert Gearhart has lived for 5 years. He learned his drinking water may be contaminated this past May.
Denied us who live here the possibility of receiving some help.
He's now part of the Clean Water Accountability Coalition, a group that filed the recall petition against French. It claims French spent 7 years covering up the information.
That cover-up effectively poisoned the communities he was supposed to be serving.
Noel Lowney is the attorney for the Coalition of West Plains Residents and Fuse Washington, a progressive group that has endorsed French's District 5 opponent, Molly Marshall. The petition claims French prioritized the business interests of the Spokane Airport over constituents' lives.
In fact, what he was doing was protecting the airport and a public development authority that he is on the board of. And so, yes, he sabotaged a public health response to this public health crisis.
French did not respond to KREM 2's requests for comment on the recall effort.
I will not vote for him again, and I didn't vote for him last month.
The EPA began testing drinking water in the West Plains earlier this year, but the coalition believes that could have happened years ago, if not for French's alleged actions. The petition says in 2020, French removed a PFAS grant application from a commission agenda, telling an environmental services manager he was concerned about the timing and impact on the airport.
And in fact, he blocked government grants that would have tested the wells and provided support for these communities.
Robert says he and other neighbors are looking at footing the bill for water filtration systems, $10,000 or $15,000 each.
I would like to see him held accountable for that. I don't know what that means legally, but maybe he can go begging the people to reconsider and give us the money, right?
Now, a lot has to happen before voters would see a special recall election if this gets that far. The recall petition now goes to the county prosecutor and the Superior Court, which has 2 weeks to determine whether there's sufficient evidence to support a recall. Shannon Mowdy, KREM 2 News.
After that strike authorization last week, it was definitely a will they, won't they situation in terms of Cheney Public Schools starting on time. The union met earlier around 1 p.m. to discuss this potential new agreement, and after close to 2 hours of deliberating, members voted to ratify their new contract with 94% approval. Throughout this whole process, the superintendent of Cheney Public Schools, Ben Fernie, has been transparent with the community about what exactly is being negotiated between them and the Cheney Education Association. Meredith Lemlin, the president of the Cheney Education Association, says that after today, the teachers in the district are relieved that these negotiations are over.
Our teachers, our educators in Cheney have the supports that they need from a collective bargaining agreement that's fair and supports the teachers, the educators, along with our students who are part of our Cheney community.
Lemlin tells me that after fighting for this new contract for the last couple of months, she believes that it is what they deserve, and she can't wait to get back into the classroom this upcoming school year. In Cheney, Christian Garza, KREM 2 News. Yeah, we learned about the situation from the Stevens County Sheriff's Office, which investigated Julio Valencia. Now, according to this report, it all started when Officer Valencia responded to reports of a runaway teen back in April. According to the information report from Stevens County, Officer Valencia first started texting the teen after she had come home. The report says that he texted her to check in with her. That led to flirty texting on the social media app TikTok, which then sparked a sexual relationship between the two until the end of June. The teen says the contact was consensual. Colville police were informed of the situation after the teen told her parents. When questioned by police, she told them Valencia had taken her to Colville PD's firearms range where the incident happened. In June, the officer was placed on administrative leave. His current employment status is still unclear, but we do know he was placed on the public impeachment disclosure list for Stevens County, otherwise known as the Brady list. That happened back on August 15th. Now, the Brady list is a list of officers with questionable credibility after being found untruthful or in criminal situations. I did reach out to the Colville Police Department, who then directed me to the Colville Mayor's office for more on Valencia's employment status, but I have yet to hear back. Once again, he's not being charged with any crime. However, in the Brady letter, Stevens County Prosecutor Erica George says that Valencia took advantage of his position as an officer to engage in a sexual relationship. Christian Garza, KREM 2 News.
Thank you for joining us here on KREM 2 Plus for a look at some of the biggest news stories of the past week. For the most current news throughout the weekend, you can watch our latest newscast right here on KREM 2 Plus. Just look for them in the bottom navigation menu. I'm Tim Pham. Thanks for watching.